Ugh, I can hear youths outside. They have skateboards. Ugh. Hello. Back in the day, curiosity cabinets or cabinets of curiosity were a little bit like the olden day version of a travel blogger's Instagram feed. People, notably people of some kind of status or rank, would fill display cabinets with exotic artifacts from natural history and potentially supernatural history that interested them. In a cabinet of curiosity, you could find everything from interesting feathers to pinned bugs and even Fiji mermaids. Even back then, people were photoshopping their lives in order to appear much cooler than they actually were. Also, other people knew that they could fool the rich and get them to buy things that seemed a little bit too good to be true, knowing that they probably wouldn't examine it too closely. Not much has changed.
Bitcoin is back, baby. All-time high, unlocked. All the haters out there said I'd never recover, but here I am. I just pivoted from Web3 to AI back to Web3, and I'm so pumped. Canceled my lease and I'm moving into the Plaza Hotel. This is absolutely insanity right now. I can't believe what's going on. Shitecoin buy signals are crazy, and my Hinge click-through rate is going to be absolutely through the fucking roof.
While the Cabinet of Curiosity was popular first during the Renaissance period, it's had its own Renaissance later in the Victorian and Edwardian periods. Now, given that I am in fact nothing but a mere magpie wearing a human skin suit, my obsession with shiny things knows no bounds. Several months ago, this cabinet came into my possession, and I knew that it would be the perfect place to store some of my spookier and kookier curios. You may have noticed that my aesthetic is all part of a long-winded and pretty expensive plan to lure ghosts into my home. They wouldn't naturally reside here after all. It's not their natural habitat. This house was built in the 80s. I don't know if anybody wants an 80s ghost. It's just the ghost of free education in Australia.
We will continue to go out onto the streets and to protest and actively encourage the public to support us in our campaign for free education.
I started by cleaning out the cupboard. With glass doors and shelves and a mirror backing the piece, it needed to be as streak and dust-free as possible. Ghosts will not deign to live in a mess, unless the dust is, of course, aesthetic. The next step was finding and creating the pieces that would sit inside my little museum of natural history. Because I love all things Gothic, I wanted to make a rhinestone heart that would glitter under the planned lighting effect. I used polymer clay to sculpt the heart, painted it with acrylics, and added rhinestones over the top for a glittery effect. To give the heart a plinth-like museum display stand, I used the base of an old lamp and screwed a dowel into it. I then drilled a hole in the bottom of my heart and glued the base into the heart. This project took approximately 12 million rhinestones, and I'm still finding rhinestones throughout the house despite filming this in the middle of last year. For the next piece, I had a few preserved butterfly specimens that I had purchased many years ago but hadn't found a way to display yet. Side note, don't purchase butterfly specimens online unless you know how the seller came to get the specimen. There are both extremely ethical and extremely unethical ways to find preserved animal and insect specimens, and it's important to be aware that your specimens are not wild caught or taken from their natural habitat. Pollinators are important, and we need as many as we can have. To find ethical specimens, you can look up your local butterfly house to see if they allow customers to purchase naturally deceased butterflies or bugs. Alternatively, you can look at handmade embroidery or otherwise artificial pieces. I used hot glue and a branch from outside in my front yard to create a perch for this specimen. Unfortunately, due to age, this specimen was pretty broken down and one of his wings had come off, so I did have to carefully glue him back together and then onto the branch, knowing he was unlikely to be perfect. For the top of the cabinet, I wanted to have a small display of antiques, vases, and candles. I found this clock in a junkyard about a year ago and I scored it for $5. I took it apart to clean it and to restain and restore the outside. A fun fact about this clock is that when I took the mechanism out, I had a look at the maker's mark, and I'm pretty sure that this Enfield clock is from the 1930s and was created just before the merging of two major clock companies in England.
Party boys here make fun.
After giving the clock a thorough clean, I gave the exterior a very light sand, gently buffing out the scratches, and then carefully restained it. I used linseed oil to finish it and give the wood a little bit of conditioning, and then I repainted the face, hands, and glass with a copper spray paint. The hands were slightly bent, but I found that rubbing over them with sandpaper helped to straighten them out. A couple days later, and I have been lighting my cabinet, but I've run into a couple of issues. One being that lights are difficult and electricity is difficult, and I have all these cords around me that I need to figure out how to change. I did figure out some cool stuff, which is that if you put lights right against either the back or the sides of glass or plexiglass, you get this cool thing where the light shines the whole way through and you get edge lighting, and it looks awesome. So this so far looks really cool at night, but I have a few things that I need to do. One of them is I need to cover the clips at the back, and I need to do my best to hide the cords so that everything looks spooky and cool and more so haunted than just that I've shoved LEDs in it, because that's my goal, for it to not look like that and for it to attract potential ghosts into my house. So I need to make an order either on Amazon or eBay, whichever's going to get to me quickest, for more 5-volt LED strip lights that are really, well, that like these ones basically are the ones that I'm using. These are some end bits. And I also need some more solderless clip pins like these, because this is how I plan to get them all to be cut up and to work together in this cabinet. So I also need extensions, and I'm pretty sure that I found some, but ever since we got our floors done, all of my stuff has gone kind of missing, and I've sorted half of it out in my office, but I have not found the electrical parts that I'm missing. I know they're somewhere, and I know I have other jumper cables, but I don't want to like do a whole bunch of Frankensteining if I don't need to. So I may need to tackle the spare room at some point this week. So I'm going to show you how I do a little bit of cord hiding within this guy and add a few extra pieces, and we may or may not finish decorating it depending on what exists within my home that would work in this cabinet for now. But that said, these Cabinet of Curiosities, curiosity cabinets, are kind of a work in progress. They're supposed to be for collecting things over time, so I don't mind if it's not totally finished. I would just like it to kind of look like it's going toward a certain aesthetic, and also for the lighting to be hidden. That's the main goal with this video. Here's what you can see. This is the shiny reflection of the lights, just here. The lights are up here on the back. You can kind of see them. You can kind of see them glowing on my hand. These shelves are great because they just slide in and out, so they're really easy to pin stuff to. These are metal lighting clips that I basically just shove the LEDs into. And then down here, that's the cable, which is relatively hidden given that it's kind of in shadow. But also I feel like you could literally just shove a lamp or something in front of it and that would be pretty hidden. When I first started working on this project, I drilled this teeny tiny hole here in the back. This guy. Do I have autofocus on? What is happening? I need to make this bigger because this USB isn't going to fit through there. So I need it to be just a little bit bigger so that I can slip all of this underneath and then hide the cables, and then get rid of any excess cables. It took me such a long time to figure out the lighting for this cabinet, and I'm still not 100% happy with it. I started trying to use LED strip diffusers, but they proved too difficult to work with the lights that I had. So instead, I chopped and snipped my LED lights to fit the shelves, and I just placed them as tightly as I could to the back of each shelf, hoping to get a kind of glowing edge light effect. I also found that the easiest way to connect the pin clips was to take off the plastic jelly diffuser that encased the lights, because it didn't really diffuse anyway. To keep the lights fixed to the glass and the cords fixed to the inner corners of the cabinet and be the least visible they could be, I used lots of cable hooks, the sticky kind that you can just scrape off later. Ultimately, I ended up placing the lights on the back of each glass shelf, facing down to the items below them. This allowed me to use the objects within the cabinet to cover the lights as best as possible, and to get a down/edge lighting effect on them to illuminate the items. With the lighting now sorted out, it was time to work out the final arrangement of oddities, and then the reveal.
Ugh, I can hear youths outside. They have skateboards. Ugh. I have a lot of plans for this Cabinet of Curiosities. It's not completely full yet, and it's also not as packed as a lot of the ones that you'll see online and in old houses. And that's because these are lifetime kind of collector's cabinets. And I'm only in my 30s, so hopefully I have quite a few years left of collecting strange and creepy things. I also really want to get into faux taxidermy using needle felting and textiles and acrylic things so that I can create some ethical taxidermy, because I am sus that the butterflies I have were not found ethically, and unfortunately that is a guilt I will have to live with. So I will be documenting things that I plan to add in, whether that's making them, collecting them, refurbishing them, etc., to this Cabinet of Curiosities, as with everything in this house, as I work on my life goal of enticing a ghost to somehow think that a house built in the 1980s is the perfect place for it to haunt.